YouTube Oziko and the Goat House is back. It's NFL Combine Day. Day one starts later this afternoon. In this video, maybe a little bit of a preview. We're going to talk about some guys gaining some buzz, stock up heading into the Combine. And then we'll talk about some players that I'm kind of high on, maybe higher on than most going into the Combine, players I'm looking to watch to see how they do. It's not all about who I think the fastest is going to be, even though speed does matter, especially in today's NFL. But we'll have videos kind of like this with winners and losers throughout each day of the NFL Combine. And so we'll see kind of how the stock changes throughout each day. And then we'll have a post-Combine mock draft as well. So we got you covered. Follow us on Twitter for live Combine updates, my thoughts on everything. We're always on Twitter. So it's on your screen, link pinned in the comments. Also, link down below for anything else you're looking for. Discord, our sponsors, links are down there as well. We have some codes for those sites. Twitter subscribers get some bonus content. A lot of free agency stuff going on there. So let's start with guys I want to talk about that will be involved in day one of the Combine, which is today, actually. So some guys kind of, in the top part here are gaining some buzz. Maybe their stock has been up based on how teams are talking or how people around the league are talking or get info from around the league. Tyree Wilson's been a big one. He's been a big prospect this whole time. Obviously, we've talked about him a long time ago. Even heading into this past season. But he's been gaining more and more buzz. People are talking about him kind of solidifying him in the top two of the edge rushers and then maybe giving Will Anderson a battle. And this time of the year, you start to talk about a guy like this a little bit more because the traits, the length and then the possible athleticism that goes along with it. And it's he's not going to maybe be as fast possibly as Trayvon Walker, but maybe some similar reasons why he was getting some buzz at this time last year. Another guy, Lucas Van Ness, freaky dude, should perform well at the Combine, but been getting some buzz. I think people have kind of been catching him on tape and seeing the upside. Like, he didn't start at Iowa, and you probably think there's got to be a reason for that. It's hard to find a reason for that, which is a good thing, for Van Ness. And he's a freaky dude with good production on the outside and on the inside, but a guy to watch for the Combine too, probably why he's been getting some buzz. Mazi Smith's been getting some buzz, the nose tackle from Michigan. I think people kind of been catching him on tape a little bit more, and that's the reason why, because he's a really good run stopper, but I think people are starting to realize that he gets after the quarterback actually from the inside. The production doesn't really show it, but if you watch on tape, he's disrupting and helping other players get production. And then Drew Sanders, another guy that I've heard a lot about recently. The Arkansas linebacker has been getting some buzz. People kind of moving him up their board. Some people think he's firm into the first round when that really wasn't talked about much before. I still wouldn't say he's locked into the first round, but there's some of that talk still. Should be an athletic tester at the Combine, so a guy to watch. He was formerly at Alabama, goes to Arkansas, and they use him in unique ways, not just off-ball, dropping in coverage, but blitzing, but rushing off the edge. Some linebackers like that kind of taking over today's NFL, so an interesting one to watch. You see why he's on the rise. And some guys I'm kind of high on, other people are high on as well, but it's a mixture of guys that I've kind of been higher on for a bit, and guys I'm looking to watch at the Combine. Nolan Smith, which everyone knows Nolan Smith, the Georgia pass rusher, who's a freaky dude, is a former #1 recruit, but I think people talk about, including myself sometimes in the past, kind of talking about him like late first round. But now I'm starting to think the more and more I watch him, I saw him speak at the Combine as well, like the kid. The more and more I watch him, I think he's going to go earlier. Every time I watch him, he's going to go earlier and earlier because I think some people look at the production and say, it's not really meeting what I'm expecting or what I expect from a top pick. But, Georgia does a lot of different things. They have him drop back in coverage, have him sit there and read quite a bit. I think he's going to be a lot more productive in the NFL. He's got freaky athleticism and length. The get off is incredible. And the only downside, he's coming off an injury and he's a little thin. I did see him at the Combine, and it looked like he put on some more muscle, which was kind of a muscular dude. But you would think for a thin guy, he wouldn't be able to stop the run well, but he stops the run very well. So I'm impressed by him. I think he's actually going to be in the top 10 conversation as we get close to the draft. So that's a guy that's the reason he's kind of on there. Felix Ndike Uzama from Kansas State, got the chance of watching him. I like him as a 4-3 defensive end. He's been you could put him in the top part as well. I think people are starting to talk about him a little bit more. But yeah, I love him as a 4-3 end. Physical, good pass rush moves. Very impressive. See a lot of upside with him. I think he could sneak in the back part of the first round, which people are starting to talk about a little bit more. Will McDonald, yeah, people have been talking about him. They maybe a guy to watch for the combine because he's pretty athletic. The reason I like him as a first round player is because he was productive at Iowa State, but if you watch the tape, Iowa State rushed 3 a lot of the time, and I didn't really realize how much they did that until I watched the tape. So he was kind of playing defensive end, and a lot of the time he's rushing either over the tackle or inside the tackle, and he's kind of got a thin frame. He's pretty athletic, and whenever they had him standing up and rushing outside the tackle, man, he looked really good. And he was pretty good rushing inside or over the tackle as well, but a lot of time it's a 3-man rush, so 5 offensive linemen, they're focused on blocking 3 guys, a lot of double teams, especially on Will McDonald. So I'm thinking if a 3-4 team takes him, puts him at outside linebackers and edge rusher, he's going to be good. He's going to be even better in the NFL. So that's a guy to watch at the combine as well. Zach Harrison, edge rusher from Ohio State, not getting a lot of buzz right now because he wasn't that productive, but I watch him and I see more production in the NFL. I think he has the traits, and we'll see if some of those stand out at the combine here with some of these drills. But I think he has the traits, maybe more athletic than what people give him credit for. But we'll see. Sometimes it's a mystery with these guys. We'll see how he performs today. But I see upside in terms of production in the NFL. Maybe like a little bit like a Jonathan Cooper. Wasn't super productive at Ohio State. Different type of pass rushers, but look a little better in the NFL. Kalijah Kancey, which I could have put in the top part as well. A lot of people starting to talk about him more and more. A while ago, during this late part of the NFL season, I threw him in the first round of the mock when really no one heard that name yet, and people were like, I think I had him going to the Cowboys. Like, really, this guy, in the first round, we're not going to take him. And now people are really starting to buzz about him. I mean, he was just super productive, some flashy plays on the inside. You could put him at defensive end in a 4-3 as well, but I do like him on the inside, like that 3 technique. He is, he doesn't have the measurables. I don't want to say undersized because I think he has the strength, the power. He doesn't have the measurables, but he's just a really good ball player. So I do think he's a first-round player. Deion Henley, who was starting to get some buzz around the Senior Bowl, and that kind of moved him from round 3 to round 2. We talked about that, or maybe from round 4 to round 3, and then I was kind of sneaking him. Yeah, I should say that. Probably around 4 to 3, but I'm, pushing him into the second round now. I think he's a today's style linebacker. I mean, this guy used to be a safety, so he has the coverage skills. He has the athleticism. He put on, added some strength, some power. He's really good at filling gaps for a guy that used to be a former safety and just flying to the football. So it's a guy I'm really watching today for the combine. And then Jalen Graham's kind of like a day 3 guy. This was an interesting one because I actually didn't watch his tape yet. I'm just basing this off of because I catch a lot of college football live. The past 2 seasons, actually specifically 2021, I thought Graham caught my eye a lot during the season. So I still have to watch the tape. It's not really I've kind of watched the tape on the first and second and maybe third round guys so far for the most part. But yeah, usually what I see live ends up being like pretty accurate when it comes to watching tape. Like, okay, yeah, I remember this guy watching him live. So that's a guy that kind of stood out to me. I thought he was like all over the field in a good way, flying to the football, making some flashy, athletic, big hit type plays. So that's a guy I'm kind of watching here. So mainly the guys listed they're either gaining some buzz. I'm pretty high on, but mainly I'm watching those guys because am I going to stay pretty high on them? How are they going to perform? It's a big combine for them. They got to test well. Guys like that. I'm not going to sit here and list the fastest expected guys. We know who the fast guys are. And, the 40 does matter, especially today's NFL. But kind of going on to, we're going to go on to the guys that will be participating in day 2, defensive backs here. On the rise, Deonte Banks, there's so many good corners, and you throw out all these big names, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, people start throwing out Deonte Banks' name, the cornerback from Maryland. Everyone's like, yeah, I don't know much about him maybe because I've been hearing about the Devon Witherspoon's been talked about a lot. Joey Porter Jr. has been talked about a lot, I feel like, and there's a list of other guys, but and then I could have put Banks on guys I'm high on, but I guess people are starting to call him late first round guy, so am I really higher on him than everyone else? I don't know, but I like him a lot is my point. I got the chance of watching him, and I see why people were buzzing on him. People were buzzing on him before I am right now. So I got the chance to watch him, and I see why. Because he's a very, very good press man corner, which is kind of hard to come across Not so much these days, I guess, but a little bit. But I think he'd be solid in zone, too. I seen him in some cover 3 reps that I was pretty impressed with. But he's pressing. He could do a little bit job of jamming the receiver right off the snap. He's got good technique staying with the guy. Sometimes he doesn't press, but he lines up like he's going to. But really good at sticking with receivers, especially speedy receivers, covering the best guy in the field, playing in the Big Ten. And I see some upside, as a zone guy too. So, I could see why we're talking about him in the first round. Because he's got that man experience, he's got that press experience, could be a little bit better. I like the technique, opening up the hips, flying downfield with guys, and again, I think he can work in zone as well. So curious to see how he performs at the combine. He runs with guys very well, so this is a guy that at first wasn't really being talked about. Then some people out there start to kind of put him on your radar, my radar. And you probably go, really? Is he a first-round guy? And you start to watch a little bit more. I'm like, yeah, this guy feels like a late first-round guy all of a sudden to me, who I just got the chance of watching more the last couple of days. So that was kind of determined by me in the last couple of days after people were already talking about it. So maybe he can move up to the middle of the first round. I think that's possible. Then Julius Brents, who I have in both categories because I've been hyping him up a bit. I think he's starting to get some hype. People were tweeting about him a little bit. But yeah, I've been hyping him up. I've been moving him into the early portion of the second round. He really, if you're looking at 2-round mocks, he really wasn't in the conversation. I think after the Senior Bowl, you move him in the early third. But I'm talking about him early second. Could he possibly sneak in late first? I think it's a possibility. He actually was with Iowa for a little bit. And Iowa, man, that's probably... If you were to say, find me a zone defense in college football that's like an NFL zone defense, right away I'm saying Iowa. Iowa's the team, as long as I can remember, So he got some experience there. Obviously, it didn't work out, but he's got some zone experience there. He goes to Kansas State, and they run a bit of zone as well. We've seen some man looks, and he looks really good in both. I like him as a zone corner in the NFL, but you see the length and athleticism, and he should show out with that at the combine. So it's a guy to watch. So he's been getting some buzz, but I do like him a lot. I kind of been talking about him early second, could even be sneaking in late first, which no one's really been talking about that. DJ Turner maybe getting a little bit of buzz, the Michigan corner, and I think that's more because of the combine. It's a guy to watch this time of the year because I think he's a freaky athlete. So maybe that's why people have been moving him up a little bit. Kind of was in the third, fourth round conversation. Could he be sneaking in the second round? We'll see him at the combine. And Jair Brown, the safety from Penn State, is a guy getting a little bit more talk lately. With the safety group, which the safety group, the guys at the top are they really safeties? They're more nickel guys like Brian Branch, Antonio Johnson, guys like that. But Brown is kind of a do-it-all type of safety, and we see Jaquan Brisker come out of Penn State, who had a really good year with the Bears last year, who earlier in his career was a free safety. Last few years more strong, but almost playing like a box, weak side linebacker. And Brown kind of doing it all, making plays in the back end and playing strong safety, making plays underneath. So this is kind of a versatile do-it-all safety that today's NFL is looking for. So that's a reason why he's been getting a little bit more buzz. Prospects I'm high on. Christian Gonzalez I listed, who is considered by some the top cornerback in football. I think people kind of caught up to this one, and they're talking about him going in the top 10. So I don't know if I'm, how much higher could you be on, but I mean, since I started doing mock drafts on this class early in the NFL season, I've had Gonzalez at 1, and at that time people were like they were confused a little bit about it, like that high, and I'm just sticking to what I've been saying the whole time. This is cornerback 1 here, and there still are some people that maybe have them kind of in the teens or late first round, and they like Witherspoon's really fun to watch. There are a lot of people out there like Witherspoon is corner 1, maybe over Gonzalez. Gonzalez is long, athletic. We'll see him at the combine. I think if he runs a good 40, it's more so he's athletic, but because of the strides as well. He's a playmaker. He's like a lockdown guy. That's what I love. He's a lockdown guy, but a playmaker at the same time. Usually it's kind of one or the other. The best corners in football are kind of both. Like they're locked down where teams fear them. They're throwing away from them. I saw that at Oregon a ton. I've seen games where I'm just waiting for the team to throw to his side, and they're just not doing it. And there's a lot of games. I think the BYU game stands out the most, but they just won't do it. So he's a lockdown guy. When you do throw his way, He can jump that route and make a play. And the movement skills remind me of Sauce Gardner, like the footwork and the opening up the hips and getting downfield if you have to. Remind me of Sauce Gardner. So this is a top tier prospect. Kelee Ringo, it's crazy that people are sleeping on the Georgia corner right now. He is moving down people's boards. He's moving down people's mocks. And I think he's a hell of a corner. He's top recruit for a reason. Play like one of the best cornerbacks in football for the best defense in football. There's a reason for that. I think he's a lockdown corner that can play man or zone. He had to cover a lot of really, really good receivers. He can run with guys. He can be physical with guys. He can press. I think he's going to light up the combine, which no one's talking about either. I think people kind of get back on track with Ringo after the combine. We'll see. We talked about Julius Brents a bit, and everyone likes Brian Branch, but I've been very high on Brian Branch. This is possibly a top 10 player on my board. Some people talk about him like he's a safety. He's really not, a safety. Maybe you should say he's really not just a safety. He's best in the slot, which is very important in today's NFL more than ever. He can man up anybody in the slot, but yeah, I'd line this guy up at outside corner if I had to. I'd line him up at strong or free safety if I have to, because he's just that talented. Flies to the football, flies to make the tackle. But I like him as a lockdown guy in the slot, which is, there's teams out there, running, more DBs on the field. We talk about, it's been a thing for teams to have 5 DBs out there in slot guy, but we've seen teams even dropping 6 back, these days. So very important. I like Branch. He should be mocked in the top 10 more often, and even maybe the top 15. Maybe he's not doing that enough here. People aren't doing that enough. The day 3 participants I want to talk about on the rise: some quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends. Yeah, Anthony Richardson's a big one. He's been getting a lot of buzz lately. People just seen him work out, training, the quick release, just the ideal build and some. You look at the ideal build, like a 6'4" quarterback, looks like he can take hits, but he's kind of souped up at the same time. We know he can run, make some flashy plays. We're getting that time of the year with these types of guys that can light up the combine. You start talking about more. So there's reasons, and teams are showing interest, more and more. So there's reasons why he's up here. Zay Flowers been getting some buzz. A really good shifty slot receiver. He played on the outside as well, but and it looked like he gained like 13 pounds. Looked like pure muscle because he was a little undersized, maybe not for receiver, but a little on the smaller side. So that's good to see. So it's a guy we're excited to watch at the combine. His athletic ability, and got the chance of watching him more on tape, and his quarterback play really let him down. He was always open, and it was some missed throws there, not seeing him. Tyler Scott from Cincinnati has been getting a lot of buzz lately. A speedy guy, getting good separation, especially down the field. A guy that can play in the slot or play outside. Supposed to be very good in the 40-yard dash and drills like that. So it's a guy to watch here. And the Dalton Kincaid's been getting some buzz, who won't be able to work out the combine. The Utah tight end, who was very productive, knows how to get open, very good hands. But he's been getting so much buzz that people are talking about him possibly being the first tight end taken, not Michael Mayer. We're kind of used to hearing. And then prospects I'm high on. Everyone's high on C.J. Stroud, but I have him as quarterback 1, which I think some people out there do as well. But most people have Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young, but Stroud, having the prototypical size, the accuracy, which is huge, underrated in terms of his athletic ability. Like, he makes people miss. He can run if he absolutely has to. It's good that he's a pass-first guy, and he gets the ball out on time, very accurate, like I said. I just can't get over that Georgia game still. Hendon Hooker is in the conversation for quarterback 3 for me. I strongly consider taking him in the first round. Won't be able to work out in the combine because recover from that ACL, but should be good to go by training camp. But I watch him, I see like a poor man's Deshaun Watson. Another guy that, can sling the football, really accurate, really good downfield ball. When he has to run, he knows when he has to. There's a difference. There's guys that want to run first when I want them to throw. There's guys that, can run but don't really know when to take off. Maybe some guys take off early, abandon the play, don't let the play develop. These guys like Stroud and Hooker, they're pass-first guys. The Hooker's more athletic, but that know when to take off and run, and when they can do that, mainly Hooker, he can do that. He had some impressive plays taking off. And this looks like I'm a huge Tennessee guy because we got 3 Tennessee guys in a row. And I'm actually a Notre Dame guy and happen to have one of my guys on here too. But, Jalen Hyatt, could have put him in the top part too. People starting to slide him in the first round more and more, but this is legit a guy in the conversation for receiver 1. Not 2, not 3, 1 for me, because not just because of athletic ability and speed that he should showcase at the combine, but I mean, he was just dominant. Teams know what would be coming, and he couldn't be stopped. Really good hands as well. Really good job tracking the football. He's only getting better. He can play it. Another guy that can play in the slot, play outside. I mean, if you put him in the slot, he can go to work. Like, how you gonna? He's gonna stretch out some defenses, which is good for the offense too. And Cedric Tillman's not being talked about enough. I got the chance of watching him very recently, and I've been even having him in the second or third round, mainly because he's had some injuries pop up this year, and it was just mainly the Hyatt show. 2 years ago, it was the Tillman show. But watching him, I mean, this is, you look at all these receivers, you got even the good ones. You got Zay Flowers, which is a little small. You got Hyatt, which is a little thin. You got, it's kind of this, you got this, Quentin Johnston's a good size, but, does he have the kind of the flexibility, to get the separation? Where is your like prototypical number one X receiver like type of guy build? The build on him, like that's Tillman to me. Like 6'3", good body control. It just seems like that type of receiver that usually is one of the top guys in the NFL. Really good hands, a contested catcher. So should be talked about a little bit more. I wouldn't say it's out of the question for him to sneak in a late first round. I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. And Michael Mayer, I mean, for some reason, we're not, Michael Mayer for some people is tight end 2 or tight end 3. To me, this is still the clear-cut tight end 1. I mean, this is a physical dude, great hands, contested catchability. I mean, he was getting doubled, even singled with guys all over him, and he's still making the catch. Really good after the catch, breaking tackles. Very underrated was his routes and his footwork as well, and then much better as a blocker this season. I think this is tight end number 1. I think he could go in the top 15. For some reason, it's not really being talked about a whole lot recently. And then out of the day 4 guys here, not sure how that happened, but there you go. Some A-Chain's been getting some buzz, probably because, that time of the year, the combine time of the year. Speedy guy here. He's going to fly in that 4. He can fly in that 40. He is coming off that injury, though, so that's tough. No matter what, these types of guys are kind of being brought up this type of year, but he's a fun, electrifying player, obviously, that could be used as a, running back, maybe as a slot receiver, as a receiving back, perhaps. He is a bit undersized. DeJuan Jones been getting a lot of buzz, mainly because of his length, but then you kind of go watch the tape, and he had a pretty impressive tape, so this is a guy that's kind of went from second round to late first to possibly mid first. And then Steve Avila, the guard from TCU, been getting a lot of buzz lately. It's a guy that, kind of been sneaking in the second round. Some people kind of talk about lately. He could sneak in the back end of the first round. Very impressive tape. And there's kind of a shortage on guards because the tackles are so good. It's guys that used to be guards. And then Luke Weipler from Ohio State, who was a center, but you like the idea of him playing guard as well. I've been hearing a little bit more on him. Could be sneaking in the second round. Guys that I'm high on, Israel Abanikanda. I'm a huge fan. And this might be one of the bigger guys, like for me, that I'm really high on because I haven't heard a peep on Abanikanda, at all. And this guy should be in the top 5 running back conversation. He's actually in the RB3 conversation for me. It's kind of 3-4, him and Charbonnet. This guy can fly. This guy can see the hole, hit the hole, make people miss. He's got a little more strength than people give him credit for as well. I mean, he had an insanely productive year for Pittsburgh. There's a reason for that. I enjoyed watching him. I think he is an NFL back. Outside zone scheme would make some sense there. Kendre Miller, who I'm a big fan of as well, kind of in that conversation for RB5. Possibly the running back from TCU just seems like today's NFL style back. He can run on the inside. He can run on the outside. Make people miss. He's faster than what people give him credit for as well. So Abanikanda is the one that's really high on, and I'm also excited to watch him at the combine because I think he can run faster than people think. Then Keaton Mitchell's a guy to watch in terms of the 40-yard dash as well because he can fly. But I just like his tape. Another guy that's when I look at running backs, I want to see the guys see the hole and hit the hole, and then what they can do after the hole. That's just big for me right off the bat. That's what I'm looking for. Guys that can do that end up being very good in the NFL. So those guys, I see that from them. Then Mitchell could, absolutely fly. He's a little on the smaller size, but he made people miss. This guy, I'm very curious to watch the combine. And then 2 guys that everyone's high on, of course, everybody. But I got to put on here because I'm not a huge take a running back in the first round guy. I'm definitely not against it, but these 2 guys, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, all day in the first round. These guys, Robinson's going to be top 10 on my board. Gibbs going to be damn close. I'm that high on Jahmyr Gibbs, and if you've been following us for a while, I've been high on Gibbs for a long time. Georgia Tech, first year at Georgia Tech, I've been high on him since then. But Robinson, how high am I on Robinson? I'd say it is not realistic. It's very realistic. I'm not going to guarantee anything at all. It's hard to guarantee what I'm about to say. I think it's very realistic for Bijan Robinson to be known as the best running back in the NFL based off his rookie year. I think that's possible there. Possibly he's a top 5 player on my board. And Jahmyr Gibbs, just so fun to watch. I mean, he can do it all. He can run, he can catch. He's so good after the catch too. Like, this guy looks like a receiver sometimes. Just making people miss, getting him the ball outside is big, and just some of the plays. He's a kick return type of guy too. You see the vision and just making people miss or blowing by guys. Just kind of a do it all type guy. Is he going to be able to take as many hits as a guy like Robinson? Maybe not. He definitely could take hits, but maybe not. But he's just a do it all guy that is just so electrifying and just so fun to watch. He's just a game changer. You get the ball in his hands. And it's like, I think it's going to go along with a team that likes to really spread out the defense, because one of those teams that like the deep ball, but to stretch the defense out, vertically down the field, but then having a guy that can make plays underneath, you got to worry about him. You got to come up. I mean, it'd be big in an offense like that. So maybe kind of like similar what how Eckler has. He's not. You can't really compare him to Eckler. They're totally different body types. But how Eckler has an effect on the Chargers or the defenses they go against there. So just so fun to watch. These are potential. Robinson is, but these are potential top 10 players to me. Big time factors in the NFL day one. So see some running backs I listed. I'm always high. There's always running backs I'm very, very high on. They usually end up being pretty good. It usually works out for me. Abanacan is my big one there. I am surprised. Not only am I surprised the lack of talk on him because how good he is and how he looks like an NFL back, but usually people just talk about guys that are super productive. It's not all about the production, but usually if he has crazy production, people are just all in on him no matter what. And he has both. He looks like he's got a really good tape. He's got the big time production, had a bunch of touchdowns this year. In Pittsburgh, you think of like a pass first, we're used to offense, and this was their offense this year. I mean, he had an incredible season. It's just not a name you hear enough, so that's kind of driving me nuts there. I'm excited to watch him in the combine. Like all these guys, that's kind of the purpose of this video. Get to know some prospects, guys to watch for, guys that are buzzing a little bit, guys that I'm really watching for to kind of determine their fate on my board. So we're ready. Combine later today, and we'll have, for each day of the combine, we will have winners and losers, kind of go over some details. So I'm really excited about that. Something we do every single year. And then right when the combine ends, early next week, we will have our post-combine mock draft, which there will be some changes. There always is. Combine matters these days, big time. It's the athletes are taking over here. So hopefully you join us for all our content. I strongly recommend following us on Twitter for live updates throughout the combine and free agency, everything like that. So links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.